Monster kill.
What's up all, welcome all, it's Max here, showing you my Exploding Palm Way of Light hybrid build that is probably going to be competing even against the top spots on the leaderboards in the upcoming Season 2. So let's get started. I'm first gonna talk about a bit about my skills, and then I'm gonna move on to showing the items and the synergy between my items and the skills that I'm using. So let's talk about my skills. First up we have Wave of Light, Pillar of the Ancients. Lightning Wave of Light deals the best single target damage out of all of the runes as long as the target stays still. First off there's that 635 weapon damage attack, and then on top of that the pillar is going to zap everything around it for 785 weapon damage over 3 seconds. So they have to stay still for 3 seconds and you get the best out of this. Then next up Dashing Strike with Blinding Speed. 40% dodge chance is nice, and getting out of trouble with a single click is essential in the high crater rifts. This build centers around doing high crater rifts, so just keep that in mind. In T6 you can do some adjustments to make your demon killing even faster in terms of mobility. Next up you can see we have Epiphany here. Epiphany is usually in every monk spec that I have come across, but as you can see we don't have any spirit generators here, so we need spirit regenerating skills instead, and Epiphany is one of them. Epiphany, on top of the cool facts that it gives you immunity to all CC effects like freeze, stun, slow, you name it, jail, you're immune to all of that stuff. It also gives you that 20% spirit per second, and that's what we are mostly looking for out of our skills. And Desert Shroud, essential in the really high crater rifts. You can't get enough defense out of your gear, so you need that in your skills instead, or on top of your amazing gear. Then next up Sweeping Wind, Inner Storm. We're gonna talk about this in a second quite a bit more, but for now it's just a spirit regenerating skill. Gives you 8 spirit per second. Mystic Ally, another spirit regenerating thing, gives you 4 spirit, and when you activate it, it gives you that 100 spirit. Then Exploding Palm, Impending Doom. It hits the hardest out of all of the runes, especially when the enemies die. It doesn't have any bleed effect, but instead when you kill an enemy that has Exploding Palm on, it's gonna hit everything around it for 6300 weapon damage. AoE attack. Then about my passive skills. Harmony, Sixth Sense, Beacon of Ether, and Unity. We're gonna talk about Unity a bit later, but for now, Beacon of Ether reduce all cooldowns by 20%. Sixth Sense and Harmony are just for defensive stats. Now let's have a look at the more interesting part, which is my items and the synergy between my items and skills. So first off, you are going to need Son of Force set, which in the PTR as it stands, whenever you cast a Cyclone Strike, Exploding Palm, Lashing Tail Kick, Tempest Rush or Wave of Light, it causes that decoy to spawn. You don't need to worry about your how much your skills are gonna cost, instead how many times you're gonna cast them. That's gonna spawn the decoy, which is gonna hit the enemies first for 1000 weapon damage, and then on top of that those enemies are gonna take 500% more damage from those skills. And this is multiplicative damage, this is not additive damage. So you need Ring of Old Grandeur for this, to get that 4 set of Sanmuko, since you're not using a helm here. Instead you are using Lyric's Crown for extra cooldown reduction. Then the other set that you are using is Ina's set. Ina's has multiple different things that are going for it. First off, the 4 set bonus is nice. You get all the mantras without even having it on your skill bar. That's a huge benefit, since it has so many synergies between the items and even the skills that are taking place. First off, let's talk a bit about my gems. I'm using first a pure damage gem, Bane of the Trapped. This gives you 30% more damage against the enemies within 15 yards. Since they are slowed by the gem, and they also take damage whenever they are slowed. So it essentially is 30% more damage as long as you don't try to hit anything that's far away. Then next up we have Taeguk. This is an interesting item since it has synergy between your Ina's and your Sweeping Wind. Ina's 3 set bonus gives you 2 spirit regen, which is nice and all, but the more interesting thing here is resource cost reduction for Sweeping Wind. This makes it so that Sweeping Wind first costs 5 spirit per cast, but with the help of a little bit of help here on the resource cost reduction on your Paragon points, you're going to make it go down to 1 spirit per cast. As you can see here, it only costs one spirit to cast 1 Sweeping Wind. Even though Sweeping Wind isn't really doing any damage, no matter how many times you cast it, what is happening over here is you're getting Taeguk stacks. As you can see, only by spending 1 spirit point, it will refresh the Taeguk stacks. And Taeguk is nice since it's additive, and you don't have too many additive damage increasing things on your skills, on your passives or so. This is the only one on top of your Unity. Also, we have Molten Wild Beasts Gizzard. This is your new gem, going to be coming out in the Season 2, as it is now on the PTR for people to test. This gives you life per second. When you take into consideration that you're using Ina's, you're getting a mantra of healing. This thing buffs your life per second by 30%. As you can see over here, you and your allies within 60 yards gain 10,000 increased life regeneration. The heal amount is increased 30% of your life per second. So you can see here, my life per second is going absolutely nuts on my stats when I look at it. Now we know the gems out of the way, we can talk about the damage dealers here, which are going to be Incense Torch of the Grand Temple and Gangdo Gear. Gangdo Gear has been redesigned in the PTR, and now what it does is Exploding Palm on Death Explosion applies Exploding Palm, so everything that gets hit by the explosion from Exploding Palm, in this case 6300 weapon damage attack, they are gonna get Exploding Palm, that same Exploding Palm applied on them. Then Incense Torch of the Grand Temple. This reduces the spirit cost of your Wave of Lights by maximum of 50% and also increases Wave of Light damage by maximum of 30%. So this is essential and makes it so that you don't need any any spirit generators, you only need regenerators. Then last off we have crudest boots. This makes it so that you have 2 mystic allies. One alone isn't enough, and you don't really have any other great set item that you could fit in here other than maybe Captain Crimson's, and then going for Ina's Helm. But other than that, I wouldn't really go for any other set piece. It also makes it so that the Mystic Ally is first off gonna give you 8 spirit per second, but the active on it is gonna give you 200 spirit. Unity is there for the 50% damage reduction as long as you have Unity on your follower, and it has the immortality token, so it cannot die. It takes 50% of your damage, but it cannot take any damage because it cannot die, so you take 50% less damage. A nice trick I didn't touch upon was actually Sweeping Wind Takeoff trick with Numlock. So let's show you how this is done. In my key bindings I have bound my skills from 1 to 4 to my numpad 1 to 4 as well. How does this benefit me? Well, if I press on my numpad key number 2, which is my Sweeping Wind, I hold that down and then I press my numlock. What happens? I released my hands, I'm not pressing any buttons, and it's still going. It essentially gives you makes it so that you don't have to hold your Sweeping Wind button all the time. And it's still casting the skill for you, and it refreshes the takeoff all the time, so you don't have to do anything to manage your takeoffs. Really handy trick. So how does this build work in action? What is the main objective when you're using this spec, and what do you have to keep in mind? Well, first off, I'm gonna demonstrate it a bit and talk at the same time. So your main goal is to put exploding palms on really weak monsters. Over here, well, I almost did it, but since everything exploded too fast, my Sunwell clones didn't get to debuff the monsters, and they only took the normal amount that the exploding palm hits. But basically you wanna hit very weak monsters first, and then try to make these chain reactions happen, where they hit their nearest neighbors, which are also low HP, like here, and they explode, everything explodes. Profit. That's the core idea here. Put down exploding palms and finish them off with Way of Light. And then the exploding palm deals with the rest. When your spirit is going low, pop your epiphany, pop whatever you have. Remember to use your Sweeping Wind trick. Use your Mystical Eye. You name it. Depends on the situation. If you're in a pinch, use Dashing Strike and you are a winner. One thing I didn't mention yet was the Unity. What was the Unity for? Well, Unity in your passives gives you 20% more damage because you have 3 allies, you have your 2 Mystic Allies and then your Templar. And they all get benefits from your 3 mantras. Even one of them would be enough to give you 15%, but since you already have 3 of them, they give you 4 buffs since you have Inas on. So you get that 20% more damage. Anyways guys, I think I'm more or less done explaining the build. All I can say is I've been able to go to GR50 with the build, and I know I can do much more than that, but sadly we EU bros have a little bit of issue when it comes to the latency, and I wouldn't consider it being a very very good way of seeing how powerful any build is when you have some latency issues. But as you saw at the start of the video, I was able to do GR50 pretty easily, even without a conduit. But anyways guys, this will be it for the video. I wanna thank you all for watching, and I'll be streaming on Twitch, twitch.tv/hacksd3. If you wanna check me out, check out some more content, and yeah, if you want to see some more videos of me, I'll be making some in the future, so don't hesitate to subscribe. But guys, this has been Hacks, and Hacks out. Goodbye guys. Ei vittu, mulla menee järki, voi saatana. No!